Alrighty, welcome back to another Asphalt Legends Unite news video. We recently had a developer chat over on the Asphalt Legends Unite Discord, and we got some good information, but before we get into all of the news and updates, I do want to mention a couple of things. Firstly, unfortunately, one of my good friends and pro players, you'll know him as Jager, his channel was recently deleted, but he started a new one, but it is from scratch. So if you guys want to give him some support and love, I'll link his new channel in the description down below. Hopefully you can expect some banger content from Jager. And the other thing I want to mention is, of course, in that description box, you'll also find links to my social media links like Instagram and Discord if you want to hang out and chat with me. Alright, so this developer chat that was on the Discord is a little bit of an interesting one. I know a lot of people were expecting some more actually juicy bits of information and updates, but this really serves as an update to the roadmaps that we've gotten recently from Gameloft. So don't expect anything groundbreaking from this video. We will do a little bit more yapping than actual news if I got my bullet points, everything laid out correctly. So just wanted to set your guys' expectations because some of these answers were a little bit of nothing burgers. So I won't cover every little bit because some of it is a little bit repetitive, but anyway, let's get into all of the information. So firstly, according to the developers, there is a new multiplayer 2 mode that is going to get tested soon. So beyond that, we don't really have any information. So this could mean anything from a new type of mode for an effect like the team races that we've had, or something entirely new like elimination or knockdown modes. Obviously, this is going to come in a future update, not anything that we can expect in the near future, but it's been very cool to see that multiplayer 2 serves as a sort of experimental ground for new game modes like the team race mechanics. So hopefully we are getting something exciting very soon, but I would really honestly like to see something drastically different in multiplayer 2 because the team races still work the same as normal races. You're just put together with other racers and your points are added up at the end of the race. There isn't anything fundamentally different. So something like elimination or infected mode or something like a knockdown mode would be really cool to see for MP2 because I don't want it to be just a casual MP1. It's nice that it does serve that purpose, but I think every once in a while it would be nice to see something that drastically changes how you play, kind of like the team pursuit mode, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about the clubs because the club clash was recently gone, so a couple of players have wanted some more ways to interact with the club mates and make more clubs a bit more meaningful because now of course we don't have the clash. So possibly late this year or next year, we will get passive achievements or quests that will be added for each club member to contribute to. So I can imagine that this may be kind of similar to the rep requirements and rewards that we currently have, but it will be different in the sense that instead of just rep over time, it could be actually individual objectives that every club member can contribute to as a part of one big collaborative effort for different rewards. So again, instead of just playing and passively collecting rep, you can actually see different objectives and contribute to them, and that would be very cool because it would make being in a club more meaningful. Now moving on from clubs to a bit more vanity stuff, there was something really cool in the Chinese version of Asphalt Legends Unite with the garage skins, but unfortunately, according to the dev chat, these skins will not be coming to the global version of the game, at least for the near future. However, they do mention that for the anniversary update coming in July, there will be a couple of new vanity features added to the game. Now beyond that, we don't know any details, but I would like to say that updates to the garage aren't completely canceled, like they are obviously in different versions of the game, so it's not out of the question that they won't make it to the global version. They are definitely something I would really like to see. We've seen completely different garage layouts in the concept art for Asphalt 9 way back many years ago, and I would really like to see something like that added to the game, especially to make the garage environment a little more lively and customizable. Alright, so let's go back to talking about clubs for a second. This was a little minor thing, but I know a lot of people have really wanted the ability to borrow cars from club mates, and according to the dev chat, that is not happening anytime soon. Now, In my opinion, there are a couple of good reasons for this that were outlined in the dev chat. So mainly, Gameloft is worried about players taking advantage of this feature, maybe finding different exploits, like if one of your clubmates has maxed out versions of all the cars, maybe from hacking or something like that. Obviously, you wouldn't want players to take advantage of something like that. So adding this feature would open the door to not only a lot of technical issues, but also to a lot of balance issues. So borrowing cars from other clubmates is not happening anytime soon. Now, something that was also talked about a lot in previous developer chats and different updates was a lot of emphasis being placed on improving the career mode. So things like changing the objectives, modifying and adding chapters and the layout, things like that. And we've also been expecting these new chapters and sections of the career to get added with each new update, but recently not much has changed to the career, at least in terms of content. Now, we have had a lot of different additions and changes, such as the ability to play career mode without worrying about fuel if you own the Legend Pass, which is quite cool, and the objectives and car rank requirements were actually changed recently and lowered, which was really nice to see. But in response to the lack of career updates, it was made pretty clear throughout this developer chat that the entire team has really shifted their priority to other parts of the game, such as multiplayer. Now, personally, I'm quite happy with this decision, as career mode for me didn't really serve much of a purpose beyond introducing new players to the game and giving people a nice linear progression system, but you couldn't play it offline, which made career a little bit useless for me in my opinion. And in my opinion as well, multiplayer and events need a lot more attention nowadays as well, especially with all of the new features. We have Spotlight, special events, daily events, so it just makes sense that in terms of developer resources, they are shifting their focus away from career mode for the time being. Now, in addition to these career updates, something that was mentioned previously was an update plan for the Team Pursuit mode. It was very clear from the start that this Team Pursuit mode wasn't 100% finished. The core mechanics were definitely there and they were fun. However, this update to the mode has been put on hold for the time being. This is quite opposite to the career mode in the sense that this decision is a little disappointing for me because, like I said, I really enjoyed this Team Pursuit mode. It really changed how you actually play the game in terms of how you interact with the mechanics. Obviously, the cops had way different nitro and knockdown mechanics than the racers, but it definitely needed some fine tuning to really flesh out the mechanics and make the balancing more in line with other cops versus racers games like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Ultimately, for me, this would be like an end goal and something that I would really love to see being worked on in terms of making this game mode its entirely fleshed out, like final version of itself. That would be really cool to see, in addition to making it a permanent addition to the multiplayer section, because now it just kind of comes out and goes in whenever it feels like it. So this is quite disappointing for me. Hopefully they are just putting this on the back burner and really planning some major update that we will see later on. But yeah, like I said, no big updates to the Team Pursuit mode in the near future, but hopefully they have something at least in the back of their minds. Now, something else that a previous roadmap featured was a quest system that would be introduced in a later update, but kind of like everything else that we've already mentioned in this video, this has also been postponed for the time being. Now, in the future, it was explained that the quest system could be linked to onboarding for new players, and if I'm reading between the lines correctly, this seems like part of the onboarding overhaul for the game that was kind of postponed as well. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about the whole quest system. I feel like when you log into the game, you're already overwhelmed with a lot of different things that you can do, like the daily events, the daily quests that we already have for the tokens or Asterion blueprints. So unless this is replacing what we already have, I don't really know if we need yet another set of objectives for players to get. Now, ever since Asphalt Legends Unite was announced and introduced, something that I've always really wanted is the ability to queue for multiplayer races with friends using the newly introduced lobby system and friend system, instead of just being limited to private races when you are in one of those lobbies with your friends. Now, unfortunately, according to the dev chat, this is not going to happen anytime soon, and they list a bunch of cross-platform reasons why. Now, with that being said, and this is entirely my opinion and my perspective, we've seen other games accomplish this quite easily, like Fortnite and Call of Duty, where the game itself is cross-platform, like Asphalt Legends Unite. You can play with your friends in a lobby, like Asphalt Legends Unite, but instead of just being limited to a private race or private lobby, you can actually queue for normal multiplayer matches. Now, of course, in Asphalt, you actually just go up against 8 other people, or in total 8 people, I should say, whereas Fortnite, Call of Duty, they can have, up to 100 players if you're playing Battle Royale, so just getting a group of buddies isn't going to change the nature of matchmaking, whereas with Asphalt, if you queue 4, 5, or 6 players, you basically have the entire lobby to yourself. So in my opinion, it's not necessarily a technical issue. I feel like it's more or less a balancing issue, and it's something they probably just don't want to think about for the time being, because if it were a technical reason, then we wouldn't be able to play lobbies in it of themselves. So I feel like this is more of a balancing issue, which I can kind of understand, because if you entirely take over the lobby, you can just boost people or downrank, or you can just mess with the whole system. So in my opinion, it makes sense why they're not trying to think about this at the time. But honestly, this is a little disappointing. I would like to at least have the ability maybe to pair up with 1 or 2 other people to join a normal multiplayer. That would be fun, especially playing with other content creators, like if it were me and Edmega, me and Cephia, or me and RacerBest, or me or any of the pro players just going up against an entire lobby. That would be cool. Now lastly, I do want to cover a little bit of just smaller details that were mentioned, and well, they were just kind of canceled features. So there aren't going to be any time of day changes to the map. So for example, a maybe sunlight version of Rome, or like daylight version of Rome, nighttime version of Cairo, that sort of thing. That isn't really going to happen anytime soon, and that makes sense just due to technical limitations. We also have seen the local leaderboards just empty for a while. We were never really knowing what to expect for that, and through this dev chat, it was confirmed that they're not working on that anytime soon. So unfortunately, no local leaderboards for the time being. Also, I know a lot of people have complained about where the club button is, and that location also isn't changing anytime soon. They think that the UI is a bit too cluttered to add yet another button, which I can kind of understand, but right now the club feature is a little buried, more than I would like to see. But yeah, that's just a little disappointing. And last but certainly not least, it was confirmed yet again, I think for the second time from a developer themselves, that bikes are not coming anytime soon to Asphalt Legends Unite, which makes a little sense because balancing would be a nightmare, but nonetheless, it's still very disappointing to see, because eventually we did get bikes to Asphalt 8 Airborne, so I would have liked to think that maybe with Alu and different changes, we would have seen some bikes, maybe even just in single player or for the cops or something like that. But yeah, at least for right now, that's not happening, which is kind of disappointing. Alrighty guys, so I know on the surface, this was a really disappointing dev chat and news video. I know a lot of you guys are going to be sad to hear that a lot of these features are either being postponed or canceled or just put on the back burner for the time being. But I do want to end this video with a little bit of a positive note, and that is transparency and updates. It has been a while since we've gotten a bout of dev chat, so to see something like this is a really nice refresher. I know, again, even though there's a lot of things that are being, canned or, postponed, it is nice to see that Gameloft are actively telling the community, hey, obviously we can't work on this because we just don't have time or the resources, so you guys know not to expect something like this. I think it would be even worse if we were promised the Team Pursuit game mode, but it was just never talked about and it never came to be. So instead, we are getting the transparency of, hey, we don't have the time to work on this right now, so just set your expectations, and I really do appreciate that. So hopefully we will receive more roadmap updates and different dev chats in the future. Maybe I can even one day be able to speak to the community manager or developers themselves. An interview would be cool. That's just maybe far-fetched thinking. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this news video. Let me know your thoughts on the future of Asphalt Legends Unite and that Discord ping that you may have just heard in the comment section down below, and I will see you all later.